can't. I'm leaving the courtroom. No, you're not. I'm leaving my presence. Good. Sit down, Mr. Bundy. Judge says I'm leaving the courtroom. Sit down, Mr. Bundy. Judge, you're not with me. Come on. Sit down, Mr. Bundy. Come on, let's go. It's cool. I'm not going to be in this room when the jury walks in. I'm not going through this, and you knew that, Your Honor. Sit down. You know how far you can push me. That's right. You want to make a circus? You've got to...
You're looking at a man who smiled in court, a man who charmed judges and manipulated journalists, a man who defended himself in his own murder trial, all while hiding one of the darkest secrets in American history. This image isn't just unsettling because of his smile. It's unsettling because of what we now know he was capable of. Who was Ted Bundy? Why is his name still whispered in documentaries, books, and horror podcasts even decades after his execution? Why was his trial the first criminal case ever broadcast on national television? How did he escape from jail twice? Why did his alike all look alike? And what drove this clean-cut, intelligent law student to slaughter dozens of women? Tonight, on Last Scene, I'm taking you deep into the life, mind, and madness of Theodore Robert Bundy, the man who fooled a nation. But to understand Ted Bundy, we have to go back to the very beginning. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. But even from the very first days of his life, he was born into a lie. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was unmarried. In the 1940s, that carried a heavy social stigma, so Ted was raised believing that his grandparents were his parents, and that his real mother was just his older sister. The following image shows Ted as a baby, being held by his grandfather, Samuel Cowell, a man described by some family members as abusive, controlling, and deeply racist. Psychologists later speculated that Bundy's early exposure to confusion, secrecy, and emotional coldness may have planted the seeds of detachment that defined his adult life. By the time his mother moved them to Tacoma, Washington, and married Johnny Bundy, Ted took his stepfather's name. But he never truly bonded with Johnny. He viewed him as dull, unintelligent, and beneath him. From a young age, Ted was different. Charming, yes. Smart, absolutely. But there were cracks in the mask. He was caught peeping into women's windows. He stole compulsively. He couldn't connect emotionally, yet learned how to mimic connection. That would become his deadliest weapon. By the early 1970s, Ted was a promising student at the University of Washington, studying psychology. He volunteered on a suicide crisis hotline. He dated a beautiful woman named Elizabeth Clofer, who had a daughter. To outsiders, he seemed like the perfect man. But behind that facade, the darkness was already spreading. The disappearances began in 1974. January 4th, Karen Sparks, an 18-year-old student, was brutally assaulted in her apartment. She survived, but suffered permanent brain damage. Then came Linda Ann Healy, Donna Manson, Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks, Brenda Ball, Jorgen Hawkins. One by one, they vanished. All young, all brunette, all with part in the middle, all in the Pacific Northwest. The following image shows a collage of the missing women, some smiling in graduation photos, others caught candidly with friends. They had futures, families, lives, but none of them knew they had become targets. Bundy had a pattern. He wore a fake cast, used crutches, pretended to need help. And when a kind-hearted woman approached, he struck. Fast, cold, ruthless. At the time, the police didn't connect the cases. After all, he looked nothing like a killer. By 1975, Bundy had moved his hunting ground to Utah. That's where he made a mistake. In August of that year, he was pulled over by police for driving suspiciously. Inside his car, they found an ice pick, handcuffs, a ski mask, and rope. Bundy tried to explain it all away, calling it a misunderstanding, but detectives weren't buying it. Soon after, he was arrested for the attempted kidnapping of Carol Derange, one of the few survivors. She identified him in court, and finally, Ted Bundy was behind bars. But the story was far from over. In 1977, while being held in Pitkin County Jail in Colorado, Bundy represented himself in court. That meant he was allowed to visit the courthouse library. Alone. And on June 7th, 1977, Ted Bundy jumped from a second-story window and ran into the woods. He was free for 6 days before being recaptured, but his second escape would be far more devastating. In December 1977, Bundy sawed a hole in the ceiling of his cell. He lost 30 pounds to fit through. And on December 30th, while guards were distracted, Ted Bundy vanished. The following image shows the empty cell he left behind. Just a neatly made bed stuffed with books and clothes to look like a sleeping man. This time, it would take months to find him, and in that time, he killed again.